They made her mop up blood after every training fight while they laughed and called her a old lady. Made her clean sweat and spit from the mats while Navy SEALs joked about the ancient gym hag. But when Lieutenant Commander Jake Hammer Rodriguez challenged her to prove she belonged in a combat gym, this 58-year-old cleaning woman did something that left the entire base speechless. That's when they saw the scars on her knuckles and realized they had no idea who they'd been disrespecting for months. Hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from, because what happened in that ring changed everything they thought they knew about the quiet woman with the mop. "Hey old lady, you missed a spot," called out Petty Officer First Class Mike Chen, pointing to a puddle of blood on the gym mat. "Yeah, right there where Rodriguez just knocked out that Marine," laughed Seaman Jake Morrison. "Hope you brought extra bleach. My grandmother moves faster, and she's been dead for 3 years," added Petty Officer Rodriguez, flexing his muscles for his buddies. Margaret Maggie Stone nodded quietly and pushed her mop bucket toward the stain. 58 years old, silver hair pulled back in a ponytail, reading glasses hanging from a chain, worn sneakers that squeaked on the gym floor. "Stone," barked Gym Supervisor Chief Petty Officer Torres, "make sure you get all that blood up. These SEALs train hard and bleed harder." "Yes, Chief." "And hurry up, next session starts in 10 minutes. The SEALs laughed as they headed to the showers. Maggie kept mopping, but she heard every word. Had been hearing them for 6 months now. Naval Base Coronado Spec Ops Training Facility was where legends were made. The gym saw brutal hand-to-hand combat training, boxing matches, and MMA sessions that left even hardened warriors bloody and broken. And after every session, Maggie was there with her mop and bucket, cleaning blood from mats, wiping sweat from equipment, invisible to the warriors who dominated these floors. "Look at Granny go," whispered Lieutenant Morrison to his squad. "Bet she's never thrown a punch in her life. Probably gets winded walking upstairs," added Petty Officer Chen. "Someone should tell her this is a combat gym, not a retirement home," laughed Rodriguez. From across the gym, Maggie heard every insult, cataloged every dismissive comment, remembered things that gym cleaners weren't supposed to know, because Margaret Stone hadn't always pushed a mop bucket. Every morning at 05:00, Maggie arrived at the gym. She cleaned equipment, organized training gear, and prepared the facility for the day's brutal sessions. The SEALs would arrive at 06:00, full of testosterone and attitude. They'd spend 3 hours beating each other senseless in the name of training, and Maggie would clean up after them. Blood, sweat, sometimes teeth, whatever the warriors left behind. "Stone, make sure you sanitize those mats," Chief Torres would bark. "Can't have our elite warriors getting infections from sloppy cleaning." "Yes, Chief." But Maggie wasn't just cleaning. She was watching, observing techniques, noting weaknesses, seeing patterns that gym cleaners weren't supposed to recognize. It was a Tuesday morning when Lieutenant Commander Jake Hammer Rodriguez decided he'd had enough of the old cleaning lady's presence. Rodriguez was 6'2", 220 pounds of pure muscle, Navy SEAL Team 6 veteran with 3 combat deployments, known for his devastating right hook and zero tolerance for weakness. "You know what bugs me?" he announced to his training partners. "Having some old lady shuffling around while we're trying to train warriors." "Yeah," agreed Morrison. "It's like having your grandmother watch you fight." "Maybe we should find her a different job," Rodriguez continued. "Something more suitable for someone her age." Rodriguez walked over to where Maggie was organizing training gloves. "Hey, old lady." Maggie looked up from her work. "Yes, Lieutenant Commander." "You ever wonder if you're in the right place?" "I'm sorry, I mean, this is a facility for warriors. People who fight for a living. People who risk their lives for their country." Maggie set down the gloves. "I understand, sir." "Do you?" "Because I'm looking at someone who's never been in combat, never thrown a real punch, never faced an enemy who wanted to kill her." The gym had gone quiet. Other SEALs were watching the confrontation with interest. "Maybe," Rodriguez continued, "you should prove you belong here." "How would I do that, sir?" Rodriguez smiled. The kind of smile that meant trouble. "Get in the ring with me." The entire gym erupted in laughter. "Are you serious?" Morrison gasped between laughs. "Hammer's going to fight Granny?" Chen wiped tears from his eyes. "This is going to be hilarious," added another SEAL. But Maggie didn't laugh. She looked at Rodriguez with steady eyes that had seen things these young warriors couldn't imagine. "You want to fight me?" "Lieutenant Commander, I want to give you a chance to prove you belong in a combat facility. Unless you're scared." "I'm not scared." "Then prove it." 3 rounds. Boxing rules. "Show us what you've got." Chief Torres stepped forward. "Rodriguez, this is ridiculous. She's a civilian contractor." "An old woman." "Then it should be easy for me, shouldn't it?" Torres looked at Maggie. "Stone, you don't have to do this." Maggie was quiet for a long moment, looking at the ring, looking at the crowd of SEALs who thought they knew who she was. "I'll do it," she said quietly. The gym exploded in cheers and laughter. "This is insane," Morrison said to Chen as they watched Maggie put on boxing gloves. "Rodriguez is going to destroy her. Someone should stop this before she gets hurt." But nobody stopped it. The entire base seemed to have heard about the fight. SEALs, Marines, even some officers crowded into the gym to watch the spectacle. Rodriguez was shadow boxing in his corner, showing off for the crowd. Perfect form, lightning-fast combinations, the body of a professional fighter. Maggie sat quietly on her stool, adjusting her gloves with movements that seemed practiced, too practiced for someone who'd never fought before. "You sure about this, Stone?" Chief Torres asked her. "I'm sure." The bell rang. Rodriguez came out fast and aggressive, showing off for the crowd, throwing combinations that would have dropped most men. Maggie moved like someone half her age. Not fast, but efficient. Every step calculated, every movement purposeful. Rodriguez threw a jab. Maggie slipped it. He threw a cross. She ducked under it. He threw a hook. She stepped back just enough to let it miss. "Come on, old lady," he taunted. "Fight back." The crowd was laughing. This was exactly what they'd expected. The old woman running scared while the warrior chased her around the ring. But seasoned fighters in the crowd were noticing something else. Maggie wasn't just avoiding punches, she was reading them, anticipating them, moving with the kind of precision that came from years of training. Rodriguez got frustrated, started throwing wilder punches, harder punches. Maggie kept moving, kept watching, kept learning his patterns. The bell rang. Round 1 to Rodriguez on aggression. "You're just embarrassing yourself," Rodriguez said as they came out for round 2. Maggie didn't respond. She was focused now. Locked in, Rodriguez charged forward with a combination that should have ended the fight. Maggie slipped the jab, ducked the cross, and countered with a left hook that caught Rodriguez in the ribs. The sound echoed through the gym, a solid, professional punch that staggered the Navy SEAL. "What the hell?" Rodriguez gasped. The crowd went quiet. That hadn't sounded like a lucky punch. Rodriguez reset and came forward again, more cautious this time. Maggie met him in the center of the ring. For the first time, she was the aggressor. Jab to the body, cross to the head, hook to the ribs. Each punch landed with precision that left Rodriguez backing up. "Who is this woman?" someone in the crowd whispered. Rodriguez tried to clinch. Maggie broke free with footwork that belonged in a boxing textbook. He threw a desperate haymaker. She countered with an uppercut that snapped his head back. The bell rang. Round 2 clearly belonged to Maggie. Rodriguez came out for the final round looking worried. His cockiness was gone, replaced by the focused intensity of a man who realized he was in a real fight. But Maggie had seen enough. She'd learned his patterns, timed his reactions, identified his weaknesses. Rodriguez threw a jab. Maggie slipped it and countered with a cross that staggered him. He tried to recover, threw a wild hook. Maggie ducked under it and came up with an uppercut that lifted Rodriguez off his feet. He hit the canvas hard. Eyes rolled back, completely unconscious. The gym was dead silent except for the sound of Rodriguez's body hitting the mat. Chief Torres counted to 10 in stunned silence. When he reached 10, the entire facility exploded in chaos. "What the hell just happened?" Morrison shouted. "Did Granny just knock out Hammer Rodriguez?" Chen was staring at the unconscious SEAL. "That's impossible," someone else said. "Rodriguez is undefeated." Maggie was already removing her gloves. Calm, professional, like knocking out Navy SEALs was just another Tuesday. Rodriguez came to after 2 minutes, helped to his corner by his teammates. His first words were, "Who the hell is she?" Chief Torres was staring at Maggie like he'd never seen her before. "Stone, where did you learn to fight like that?" "Here and there." "That's not an answer. Nobody just picks up boxing like that." Maggie sat on her stool, looking at the crowd of stunned warriors. "You wanted to know if I belonged in a combat facility," she said quietly. "Now you know." Base Commander Captain Patricia Wells arrived within the hour. The story of the gym cleaner knocking out a Navy SEAL had reached her office in minutes. "Stone, I need to speak with you privately." They walked to a quiet corner of the gym while medics checked Rodriguez for concussion. "Who are you really?" Wells asked. Maggie reached into her pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. From it, she extracted an ID card that made Wells take a step back. "Colonel Margaret Stone, United States Army, retired," Maggie said quietly. "Special Operations Command, hand-to-hand combat instructor." Wells stared at the ID. "You're a colonel?" "Was. Retired 18 months ago after 32 years of service." "What were you doing for 32 years?" "Training people like Rodriguez how to fight and survive." Wells looked back at the ring where Rodriguez was sitting with an ice pack on his jaw. "You trained SEALs?" "Among others, Delta Force, Green Berets, Rangers, anyone who needed to learn how to kill with their bare hands." "And you've been working as a gym cleaner?" "I wanted something peaceful, something simple, somewhere nobody expected me to be the deadliest person in the room." Wells was quiet for a long moment. "How many students have you trained?" "Over 3,000, including about half the SEALs on this base." Word spread through the base like wildfire. By evening, everyone knew that the gym cleaner they'd been dismissing for months was actually one of the most elite combat instructors in military history. Rodriguez found Maggie in the equipment room, still icing his jaw. "Ma'am, I need to apologize." "For what?" "For disrespecting you, for thinking I knew who you were." Maggie continued organizing equipment. "You saw what you expected to see, an old woman with a mop bucket." "But you're a colonel." "A combat instructor." "I'm a gym cleaner who used to teach people how to fight. Today I had to fight again." Rodriguez was quiet. "Ma'am, how many people have you trained?" "Enough." "Did you ever train anyone I might know?" Maggie looked at him carefully. "What's your training officer's name?" "Master Chief Peterson." "Big guy?" "Scar on his left cheek, fights southpaw." "Yeah, that's him. I trained Peterson 12 years ago." "Taught him the combination you tried to use in round 2. Rodriguez stared. "You taught him that combination?" "I taught him everything he knows, including how to spot weaknesses in overconfident opponents." The next morning, the gym operated differently. The casual disrespect was gone, replaced by professional courtesy that bordered on reverence. "Good morning, Colonel," SEALs would say when she arrived. "It's just Maggie," she'd reply. "No ma'am, it's not." Captain Wells offered her a position as official hand-to-hand combat instructor. Maggie declined. "I like cleaning the gym. It's peaceful. It lets me watch and learn what the next generation of warriors needs." "But your skills are available when needed." "But my preference is mopping floors and staying invisible." Although she refused an official position, Maggie began offering informal training to anyone who asked respectfully. "Colonel," Morrison approached her one day. "Would you teach me that uppercut?" "Why?" "Because I want to learn from the best." Maggie considered this. "Training isn't about learning techniques. It's about learning discipline." "I understand." "Do you?" "Because the technique that knocked out Rodriguez took me 20 years to perfect. The discipline to use it took 30. She put down her mop. "Show me your stance." Word of Maggie's informal training sessions spread. SEALs, Marines, even some officers began asking for instruction. 6 months later, the gym had become an unofficial academy. Maggie still worked as a cleaner, but now she also taught the deadliest hand-to-hand combat techniques in the military. The most important lesson, she told her students, isn't how to throw a punch. It's when not to throw a punch. "When is that, Colonel?" "When you have other options." Fighting should be the last resort, not the first response. Rodriguez had become one of her most dedicated students. The humiliation of being knocked out by a gym cleaner had taught him humility. "Colonel, how do you stay so calm in a fight?" "By remembering that the goal isn't to prove how tough you are. The goal is to survive and protect others." New personnel arriving at the base were briefed about Maggie during orientation. "The gym cleaner," sergeants would say. "She's also one of the most dangerous people on this base. Treat her accordingly." Most figured it out quickly when they saw seasoned SEALs asking for her advice and calling her Colonel. Young warriors would sometimes ask her about her career. "Colonel, what was your most important mission?" "Teaching people like you to come home alive." "Did you ever have to use these techniques in real combat?" "That's classified, but the fact that I'm here to teach you should tell you everything you need to know." 2 years after the fight with Rodriguez, Maggie was offered a position at the Pentagon, training special operations personnel at the highest levels. She declined. "Why?" Captain Wells asked. "This is a chance to train the elite of the elite." "I already am," Maggie replied, gesturing toward the gym where her students were practicing. "But at the Pentagon, I'd be behind a desk, developing curricula and attending meetings. Here, I'm on the floor, teaching warriors how to survive." She picked up her mop. "Besides, someone has to keep this place clean." New students often asked Maggie what made a true warrior. "Is it physical strength, Colonel? Number. Speed? Number. Technique? Technique helps. But the most important quality in a warrior is the wisdom to know when not to fight." "I don't understand." Rodriguez challenged me because he thought strength was about domination. "Real strength is about protection. Real warriors fight only when they must, and they fight to end conflicts, not to prove points." She would pause in her cleaning. "The deadliest people in the world are often the quietest. They don't need to tell you how dangerous they are." On her third anniversary at the gym, Maggie was approached by a young Marine who had just completed basic training. "Colonel, everyone says you're the best fighter on the base." "Everyone's wrong, ma'am. The best fighter is the one who never has to fight. I spent 32 years teaching people to be killers. Now I teach them to be protectors." "What's the difference?" "Killers fight because they can. Protectors fight because they must." She handed him a towel. "Help me clean these mats." Real warriors take care of their equipment and their facilities. That evening, Maggie put away her cleaning supplies and walked to the parking lot. Tomorrow, she'd be back with her mop and bucket, ready to clean up after the next generation of warriors, ready to teach them that strength without wisdom was just violence, that respect without humility was just arrogance, and that the deadliest warriors were often the ones who looked least dangerous. In her car, she kept a photo from her retirement ceremony. 32 years of service, hundreds of medals, thousands of students trained. But her proudest accomplishment was the young warriors who came home alive because she taught them to be smart as well as strong. The gym cleaner who knocked out a Navy SEAL, the colonel who chose invisibility over recognition, the warrior who found peace in service. Exactly who she chose to be.